If you grew up in the 1990s like we did, then you probably remember the goth kids. Maybe you were one yourself. We personally liked the skater look, but that's just us. The 17-year-old that is the center point of this case was goth on steroids. We have heard him called an edgelord, but personally, we think he's a cringelord.
In the stillness of a forgotten night, when shadows lengthened and secrets whispered among ancient trees, a tale of macabre horror began to unfold in the unlikeliness of places. It was here, in the quiet corners of Murray, Kentucky, that Rod Ferrell was born. His early years were steeped in pain and mystery, for the gentle facade of youth concealed unspeakable mistreatment. Ferrell's own account spoke of horrifying events. A sinister betrayal at the hands of his maternal grandfather, Harold Gibson, an act that left a wound that would never heal. Abandoned by the comforting arms of a normal childhood, and raised by a troubled young mother, Sandra Gibson, whose life was a tapestry of scandal and forbidden rites. Rod was drawn to the allure of the darkness. His world became one of broken trust and spectral promises, a realm where blood and shadows ruled, and innocent was but a fleeting memory. In the depths of despair, a twisted notion took hold, the transformation into something eternal, something both feared and revered, the vampire. It was a whisper of immortality that beckoned him from the abyss.
Drawn to the occult like a moth to a flame, Rod embraced his newfound identity with chilling fever. He fashioned himself as Visago, a centuries-old creature of the night whose very existence defied time and mortal bounds. In his quest for eternal darkness, he gathered around a group of misfitted souls, teenagers wandering on the edge of despair. They called themselves the Vampire Clan, a motley crew bound together by blood and a shared longing to transcend the mundane. Among them was his devoted girlfriend, Heather Wendorf, along with a host of troubled youths who had known only hardship and heartache. In the eerie glow of moonlit graveyards and silent whispers of abandoned cemeteries, they enacted rituals that blurred the lines between fantasy and reality. They cut themselves, not to simply hurt, but to mix their lifeblood in a grotesque communion, a ritualistic celebration of their self-imposed otherness. Their appearance was as dark as their intentions, clad in goth attire that concealed both their fear and their desperate desire to escape a life devoted to meeting. Each meeting, shrouded in mystery and steeped in the language of the damned, was a step further into an abyss from which there was no return.
But darkness does not merely dwell in the hearts of men, it festers in actions too. In a chilling prelude to the greater horror that was to come, Ferrell and his twisted followers unleashed their madness upon the unsuspecting animal shelter of Murray, Callaway County. On a cold October night in 1996, the group invaded the Sanctuary of the Innocent, a place meant to shelter those in need. Under the cover of night, they vandalized the facility with an eerie brutality that sent tremors through the community. 2 puppies met their grisly fate, their lives extinguished in acts of senseless cruelty. One was brutally stomped while the other suffered unspeakable injuries. The horrifying spectacle left not only the shelter in disarray, but also the hearts of those who learned of the incident, gripped by fear and revulsion. Sheriff Stan Scott, a weary guardian of order, could only surmise that such acts were the work of a cult, a macabre fellowship whose rituals were as dangerous as they were deranged. The clues lay hidden in the bloodied aftermath of vandalism, whispering of a deeper malevolence at play.
As the night deepened, the sinister path led the clan to a destination where human vulnerability and madness converged. The group, now emboldened by their earlier acts, set their sights on a family whose home held secrets of its own. Under the cloak of darkness, Ferrell and his accomplice, Howard Scott Anderson, slithered into the quiet neighborhood of Eustis, Florida. There is a house there that belonged to a troubled family. They found their mark. This house belonged to the family of Rod's girlfriend, Heather Wendorf. She had convinced Rod that her home was a living hell and asked him to take her away. The unsuspecting father, Richard Wendorf, slept soundly on a worn couch, oblivious to the impending terror. Ferrell, armed with a heavy crowbar, unleashed a fury that shattered the fragile barrier between dream and nightmare. Blow after relentless blow rained down, each strike echoing the torment of a soul long denied redemption. Richard's eyes closed in a permanent slumber, his life snuffed out like a dying ember. But the horror did not cease there. In another room, Naomi Queen emerged from a steamy sanctuary, only to confront the carnage in progress. Her valiant attempt to defend her domain was met with a swift, brutal response. A cup of scalding coffee and savage, unrestrained violence turned her struggles into a gruesome finale, leaving behind a scene of unspeakable carnage, a testament to the depths of the land's depravity.
In the wake of their brutal spree, the forces of justice finally closed in on the spectral figures who had danced on the edge of human decency. On Thanksgiving Day, as the autumn leaves fell like the fading remnants of innocence, the vampire clan's dark journey came to a halt. Law enforcement, tipped off by a concerned relative, apprehended the gang with little resistance, halting their nightmarish odyssey. Among the captured was Rod Ferrell, whose chilling transformation from a disturbed teenager into a self-styled immortal had shocked the nation. The trial that followed was shrouded in a palpable atmosphere of dread. Ferrell, barely 17, pleaded guilty to the first-degree murders of Richard Windorf and Naomi Queen. His confessions marred by the disturbed admission of deriving pleasure from the violence he inflicted.
We went to the house, we entered it, and while in the garage, I searched around and I found the murder weapon, the crowbar. I was trying to impale him. I did not know at that time that you need sharp objects to impale people. This was a rather blunt one, and I believe it was 5 blows I took trying to plunge the crowbar into his heart. She spotted me at the other end of the kitchen, blood splattered, crowbar in my hand, hair disarrayed, looking very disheveled. She asked me then what I wanted and what my intent was, and I did not give a reply because at this time my mind was on only one mode, and that was to kill. So I went forth to attack her, and she threw a scalding hot cup of coffee on me, of which only increased my instincts, if you will. At which point in time, like I said, between 30 and 60 seconds, I took her life, approximately the same way I had taken Richard's. The 3 days we were on the run, it was an utter rush. I loved that, because I knew every cop in the nation was looking for me. I knew that even by one slip, I could lose everything. Everything would go into catastrophe. And the only hard part was keeping the other 4 in line.
The court's verdict was a condemnation not just of his acts, but of a society that had in some way nurtured such unholy growth. While his accomplices received varying sentences, from life imprisonment to years behind bars, the shadow of his legacy loomed large, leaving Ferrell to spend his days in the confines of a correctional institution, a living relic of a nightmarish chapter in a tale of modern vampirism.